Hey there, friend. I've got a favor to ask you before we get to the show. I don't do this enough, and someone much smarter than me in marketing has suggested that we try this. So if you could please, if you're on YouTube, if you'd like this video, subscribe to our channel, hit that bell notification so that you get new videos. We don't just do a podcast. We also have a lot of how-to videos and product showcase videos on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/homebrew happy hour. If you're an audio-only listener, which the vast majority of you are, if you could, please leave us a review wherever you're listening to us to. A lot of y'all use Apple Podcast. Leave us a review. Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcast, Pocket Cast, Podbean. I know one of y'all uses that because I see the statistics. Wherever you downloaded this from, if you could leave us a review, it would be greatly appreciated by us, and it would help us grow the channel and spread our reach of home brewing fun and shenanigans. So with all that, please enjoy the show. Today's show is brought to you by Imperial Yeast. You hear us gushing over Imperial Yeast all the time, and that's because their yeast performs for us in every batch that we brew. Imperial Yeast is adored by commercial breweries and home brewers alike. Their pitch right pouches are jam-packed with over 200 billion fresh yeast cells, guaranteed to deliver flawless, fast fermentations every time. Imperial Yeast strains are grown by a team of pro brewers and home brewers who live to help other brewers learn more and ferment better. Join any recipe receiving tier of our Super Duper Homebrew Club and get a free upgrade to premium Imperial Yeast with every recipe kit that ships out to you. Learn more at homebrewhappyhour.com/club and come brew with us.
Entertaining shows with content that spreads information and sparks discourse throughout the community. This is the Pearl Media Network.
An interview with Founders Brewing Company head brewer Jeremy Kosmicki. This is Homebrew Happy Hour, episode 260. Hello and welcome to another fun-filled episode of the Homebrew Happy Hour. This is the show where we supply the answers. What are you laughing at for me?
He's doing my dance. I love it. Yeah.
This is the show.
I constantly mock the music by doing a dance at the beginning. So
this is the show where we supply the answers to your homebrewing questions and discuss all things related to craft beer. If you have a question you would like us to discuss on a future episode, go to homebrewhappyhour.com and click on that submit a question link at the top of the page. Or now you can call or text them in by using 325-305-6107. I am your host, Joshua Stubing. Today I'm joined by the Director of Operations at cmbecker.com down there, Mr. James Carlson, as well as the President and Chief Keg Washer at kegconnection.com over there, Mr. Todd Burns, and a very special guest. This, like pretty much the last few episodes, we've had a ton of guests. It's the season for giving, and I'm so excited about today's episode. We're welcoming the brewmaster himself at Founders Brewing, Mr. Jeremy Kosmicki. Jeremy, thank you so much for joining us.
It's a pleasure. How are you guys doing?
Man,
Good.
Could not be better. Real quick before we talk about you, Todd, are you recording from a World War II bunker? What's up with your lighting? Are the Germans coming to you?
I was about to tell a nighttime scary story.
What is going on with your lighting? Oh, but I'm joking. Really, I wanted to show people you said it was a coincidence. The shirt you decided.
Oh yeah, isn't that great?
His Founders Brewing. So, Jeremy, I'll start at the top.
Best stout made.
No, I seriously, I walked in today. I took my flannel shirt off, and then I guess you mentioned we're doing the interview today with Founders, and I was like, "Wow, I have a Founders shirt on. What are the chances?"
It worked out.
And I actually bought this at the brewery, so. Yeah, I love that. It's a great place to visit.
It was 2018 because you brought me back one as well. But you brought me back a medium. You and James for a while there thought I wore mediums, and I don't look good in mediums, man. I haven't been a medium. I haven't been a medium since the 8th grade. It's been a while. I mean, don't get me wrong. I've been this height since the 8th grade, but I haven't been a medium. Jeremy, thank you so much. I want to mention at the top here, for the first 50 episodes of this podcast, this is episode 259. And the first 50, I spoke so frequently about the Breakfast Stout that Todd implemented a ban that I couldn't bring it up anymore.
That's true. That's very true.
That's very true.
It is in my top 3 top beers of all time. I always have it, especially now that it's not just released seasonally. It's year round now, and so that helps my fridge out a lot. And I love brewing it. But we'll talk more about my obsession with it. I want to start off by asking you your history. You've been with Founders for 20 years.
We're going to celebrate an official 20 years of being on the full-time salary here in January.
That's
nice.
Cool. So let's talk about your background as a brewer, anything involved with home brewing, and then, what led you to commercial brewing and specifically at Founders.
Yeah, well, Founders is my first commercial gig, really. I was a home brewer. Bought my first kit back when I was 19, because you could just go on the internet, and I went to a website. What was it called? Alternativebrewing.com, I believe it was at the time. But man, they would sell you all the equipment you needed. They had these recipe packs all done up where you just, hey, I want to make celebration ale. So they would send you what you needed to make 5 gallons of it and a printout of the recipe. And there you go. It was all extract brewing, but I don't know. We had a lot of fun with it, and our friends thought we were pretty good. And you know how that goes. Eventually you start, you buy enough of those kits and you start to kind of see some trends, and you start to get familiar with the raw materials, and then the real fun starts when you try to start making your own recipes. So that was the path, and to be honest with you, I did not progress past extract brewing in my homebrew career. So we were, obviously there's a lot more nuance and things you can do when you start going all grain. But we were making some pretty tasty extract homebrews, and we're having a lot of fun with it too. So it became a bit of a passion of mine and my roommates, and we had a little thing going. A group of us get together and we would brew all the time. Fast forward, I was at that for, I don't know, probably 5 or 6 years before I kind of found myself unemployed. I had been in the auto detailing business where you got to clean a car, right? You take this crappy looking used car and you got to make it look brand new so they can resell it for a lot of money, which is where I really learned my attention to detail and what it means to be clean. All those skills were able to translate on in my future careers. But I don't want to do that anymore. And I don't know. I was a musician. I had these dreams of being in a rock and roll band. That wasn't really paying the bills either. So my then girlfriend, who is now my wife, said, "Hey man, I'm sick of you sitting around the house moping about being unemployed and all that. Why don't you go down to Founders and see if they're hiring?" And I was like, "Well, I don't really like Founders. I like Bell's Brewery." But they were the biggest brewery in town, and I had nothing to lose, and I was a little bit desperate too. So went down there and into the bar and asked the waitress or the bartender, "Am you guys hiring for anything in the back there?" And she's like, "Hold on a second." Went back and got the guy who runs the packaging line. He's like, Hey, what are you doing right now?" I'm like, "Nothing. I have nothing. I was going to maybe try to scrape together some change and buy a beer while I'm here." And they needed some help back on the packaging line. So I started that day, and, it was not, like I said, it was a couple of years before I got on the salary as the assistant brewer, because packaging help wasn't full time. It was when they needed you. Fortunately, I was in a position where I was available most of the time. So, and I just kept trying to get odd jobs around there. When they weren't packaging, I was volunteering to do whatever I could. And, getting paid in beer, and then it was a little bit of money, but it was a foot in the door. And it was, like I said, I had nothing to lose. And and a passion for the gig too. So, just doing everything around that place. Eventually, when I did get hired in January 1st of 2000 is my official, or 2002 is my official hire on date. At that point, I was hired to be the assistant brewer, and the assistant brewer at that point basically did everything. I ran the packaging line, loading trucks, getting together orders when they showed up, doing the cellar work, prepping the brew day, for our brewer. So I learned a lot. I learned it on the fly. But it was pretty awesome to be able to, kind of do everything. And that just helped as I progressed through my career. By 2005, I took over the head brewer position, and kind of gave that up. I don't know, maybe 5-6 years ago, the day-to-day managing of the brewing team, to kind of look at more big picture stuff. So I still do run the R&D department, where we we brew things for our tap room. We do innovation, think about what's next. What do the people want next? And I try to help out with the salespeople and the marketing people. And I'm just kind of that bridge between where the idea comes from and how to get it out there and represent it in the right way.
How many barrels are y'all producing a year now? Because it's way different than when you probably got started on salary position.
Yeah, I think we made maybe 1,000 barrels that first year that I was in there, and we're about 550,000 at this point.
Woo,
wow.
So then,
wow.
And I asked that because I wanted to segue it to, you're talking about being an R&D. For a brewery y'all's size, what does pilot system batch mean? Because like for us, pilot system, for one of our brewer friends, what is Wes's pilot system, James? A barrel, or not even?
It's 50 gallons.
Oh, his is 50.
Yeah.
But for brewery like Founders, what would a pilot batch for a test run recipe look like in regards to barrel and pilot system?
Yeah. So here in Grand Rapids, we still have our original 30 barrel system, and that's basically the pilot system. It's a good size for our tap room. You've been to the tap room. So, we have a huge tap room. We get a lot of people through there. And, it's the people coming there, they want to try some new, different stuff, stuff they can't get on the shelf back home. So, which is great. It gives us an opportunity to use that 30 barrel, go through some volume in our tap room and work through a lot of different ideas. That said, I do have on the CapEx list a much smaller R&D brew house coming. Probably a 1 barrel is what I'm looking for. Reason being is, at 30 barrels is big. It's still a lot, and it's forced me to be a little conservative over the years, just because you don't want to dump out that much beer.
Right.
Fortunately, we've been pretty lucky as far as even if something doesn't come out quite right, there's something you can do with it and sell it in the tap room. And it's going to be somebody's favorite beer always. So even if it's a big mistake that you can never make again, somebody will be like, I loved it when you made that beer. And I was like, oh, right.
Did you?
But one of the main advantages of getting the smaller system is working through like minor changes and tweaks to the recipe, right? If I make 30 barrels of something, I'm like, wow, that's pretty good. Gosh, I would love to try it with this hop instead of that hop. Well, I don't need another 30 barrels of a beer that maybe people won't even be able to tell the difference of. Well, how am I going to sort of sell that in the tap room? So this 1 barrel will allow me to do more minor changes and really dial something in before it gets out to that next level.
In 2021, we know Michigan, and specifically y'all's area of Michigan, Grand Rapids, as a beer capital, right? It's very well known, Michigan, as a great beer state. Mid-90s, when you're homebrewing, what was the homebrew scene like back then, and what was the craft beer scene like in Michigan? Because, I'm in the Austin area, and really the craft scene here is a very much post 2010 kind of explosion. Todd, you're shaking your head. I mean, in Austin proper.
Oh yeah. I mean, there was just the copper tank was about it.
Exactly.
20 years ago. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but when you're starting to brew, you know, in the mid '90s, you're making your own beer extract or whatever, and then you get in a commercial. Was there a scene? Was it a strong home brewing scene? And then was there a good presence of craft beer for you to enjoy that wasn't just local, or was it basically, hey, what's in my area is what I get to have?
Yeah. So, you know, our interest in homebrewing came from trying some, you know, seeing some weird stuff on the shelves, right? You know, me and my friends liked drinking. Obviously we were a little underage at the time, but you find ways, but did not really like sitting down and crushing Budweisers. You know, it wasn't really, we found no real pleasure there. If we were looking to just get drunk, we'd do liquor. And if we wanted to actually enjoy some tasty things, we started to see on the shelves, you know, in select stores, you'd find things like, you know, some Sam Adams things. I remember like things like Old Fezziwig and Cranberry Lambic coming out about this time of year and being like, what the heck are those? Buying it, trying it, and thinking, that is not beer. What is, I mean, it was really fun, interesting. And then, of course, you know, with discovering Bell's had been at it for a little bit. And that stuff really blew my mind. I mean, I mentioned earlier that I was, you know, a Bell's fan when I started. And it's true. Those beers, something about that flavor, that mouthfeel, I really wanted to be able to do that. So, and once we got to the point of kind of making our own recipes, there actually were a couple homebrew shops in town, pretty nice ones. A couple of them are still around, but that was the thing. Founders, like I said, was the biggest brewery. There were a couple others, but you know, when I say I wasn't a Founders fan, the beers were fine. The beers were good. Our original brewer is a brilliant guy. We were just making like, you know, amber ale, wheat beer, a lager, a pale ale, and that was about it. And it was just like, yeah, just not very inspiring. You know, through our home brewing, we started making like wild stuff, you know, big crazy stouts. Some of those recipes like Breakfast Stout, you know, some of the bigger IPAs and stuff. Those are directly from our homebrew days, just growing up those recipes when we started. So those were the kind of beers that we had been making. And, you know, when I started at Founders, one of my homebrewing buddies actually, I brought him in to work on the bottling line when I was still doing that. And he had been the assistant brewer at another local brewery called New Holland. And they happened to have the exact same 30-barrel brew house that Founders had bought. So when our original brewer left, they were, you know, Mike and Dave, our owners, were, I don't know, at that point, probably a little desperate, probably a little checked out. But they were like, you think you can run this brew house? To my friend Nate Walser. Yeah, man, we'll do it. And that's when I became his assistant brewer. We had been homebrew buddies. And that's kind of when, you know, Mike and Dave were just kind of threw us the keys to the car and like, why don't you guys make some tasty stuff, make stuff like when you were homebrewing. Let's just see what happens.
So he gave you free reign for recipe creation or manipulation or change, because and my friends who are at breweries, that's not the common thing to be. A lot of the times they bring them in as a shift brewer and they're like, this is the recipe and you brew it. So you had a lot of input of all the beers being served now. You had direct input even back then when you were assistant brewer of the recipe creation. For sure. Yeah, it was, like I said, you know, they were desperate, and I think that they saw an opportunity where, man, what we're doing isn't really working. It's we're not standing out. Everybody's making these kind of beers, you know. And they had a 30-barrel brew house. Is a real, at the time especially, was a real production brew house. They were not going for the brew pub thing. They wanted to bottle and sell beer out to the world, and so what we started to do is, you know, because the Bell's tap room, the Eccentric Cafe, always had like weird stuff on in the tap room, and that really made you want to go down there and hang out and try all these different things. So our thought was, let's do that. Let's make some cool stuff for our tap room. Let's make Breakfast Stout. Let's make Red's Rye. And see if we can get some people to come and get this room, you know, hopping again. Mike and Dave took it to the next step. I remember them telling me, you know, we think we want to put Breakfast Stout in the bottle. And I was like, what? No, you don't want to. This is just for the tap room. We're just having fun here. And they're like, no, I think there's an opportunity there. So they were right. And
those kind of beers definitely made us stand out from everything else that was going on. It was the dawn of extreme brewing, and those were fun times to see the industry kind of turn over like that.
Did you at one time? I'm not sure if you still do it. You actually sold homebrew supplies out of the tap room, I believe, right?
We might have had some basic stuff. I know I used to take care of the yeast needs of a lot of people. We'd harvest. We were just gonna dump it down the drain, and I would call up all the homebrewers I knew, and come pick up some yeast today.
Stuff
like that.
That is way too cool. See, I was going to ask that. It was in my list of questions because I know there are a lot of commercial breweries now getting in the habit of publishing their recipes, because I think I've determined, James has actually pointed out to me, a lot of the secret is really in the yeast, right? So they don't give you the yeast. That was very nice of you back then to do that, but they don't mind publishing the actual recipe. Does Founders formally, do y'all offer up like, hey, you want to brew KBS? Here's what we do.
We haven't formally done that. I've done a few interviews with Brew Your Own magazine and stuff, and I have gave some general recipes away. People email me and ask me for pointers, and I'm always fine giving that away too. It does get a little time consuming. Maybe we had more of a formal program where I could just be like, here's a 5-gallon recipe. Otherwise, I'm sitting here hand typing recipes for them. So I don't do it all the time, but I don't ever shy away from it. I think that to me that recipe, if I give you the Centennial IPA recipe and you go home and you make something that tastes just like it, kudos to you. And if you want to use that recipe to start your own brewery, go for it. I don't think it's going to happen. There's a lot to it.
Jeremy,
there's a lot more to it.
I don't know, man. I've got plans on making a brew house for just Imperial coffee stouts. Okay. Look, I'm on to you guys. I know the coffee you use is Folgers because I use it and it's dead on. Dead on.
You got me.
I knew it.
Go with it, man.
Bottom shelf Folgers too. Not even the expensive stuff, but the
you don't need it.
The kicked in can. Yeah. I knew what y'all are doing. What are the logistics of, because you're talking about you and your buddy who were home brewers, and I'm assuming he was an extract brewer as well. What's the logistics of taking a 5-gallon recipe and scaling it to a 30-gallon brew house? That sounds like a nightmare.
There was a lot to learn, but honestly, we had really good luck with it, and even the first batches, even the first things we did, they were just they came out good. I mean, I don't know what else to say. We just got lucky or just had a real knack for it, but we haven't dumped a lot of beer on my watch here, and I feel pretty blessed.
That's
about
a good thing.
I bet I've dumped more batches than they have at Founders. Actually, I've only dumped one 5-gallon because I will drink anything, Jeremy. If it's potable, it's staying on tap.
To be fair, I dumped it for you, but yeah.
It's true. That batch was scorched grains, kind of out of my thing. Some of the issues, because you were home brewing, you said, for 5 or 6 years. Were there any similar kind of technical issues? I know obviously it's very different mechanically speaking in the logistics, but did you understand the process enough from home brewing to understand what was going on when you went to commercial? Or is it like a whole different beast? And hey, guys, if you're a home brewer, don't think you can just jump into commercial without doing a crap ton of homework.
Yeah, honestly, being that I hadn't progressed past extract brewing, there was a lot to learn. Now, fortunately, Nate having worked out at New Holland had at least that understanding. But basically, all I really had going for me was a pretty good palate, a pretty good ability to find balance with those raw materials, and a passion for cleanliness and sanitization. Those things seem very important to me as a home brewer, and of course even 100-fold more so on the professional level. But that has always been like one of the main priorities, top of the list of things to make sure that I was going to do was keep it clean and be careful and be conscious of everything that you're doing to your beer and what could potentially screw it up from a sanitary standpoint. So that definitely gave me the groundwork to kind of learn the rest as I went.
Yeah.
Yeah. We talk about that a lot, that One definition of a head brewer is also head janitor, right? Because it's you're cleaning all the time. So
that's just so true.
As home brewers, we this specific group, the three of us, usually do most of our batches on a 3-vessel Herm setup. And we like it because we like the control that it gives us over the brew. We like, the consistency that it provides. And also, I've convinced myself Herm's Brewing is a great prepper for if I ever got bit by that pro bug. I mean, I haven't yet, mainly because I'm not confident enough in my beer. And also, too, there's a ton of other breweries that do it better. I'll do my own thing. But for home brewing, have you, would you say that Herm's Brewing could be a bridge between people, home brewers, understanding a commercial brewing process? Or again, would you say you kind of just need to jump into the commercial scene to get it?
No, that seems like a pretty good intermediate step. I mean, once you kind of learn the parameters of the 3-vessel process, that's just definitely sets you up a lot better. Part of it's just that experience. I almost feel like that experience right there that you're talking about is probably more helpful than even dropping a couple tens of thousands of dollars and going to a brew school and coming out of there with knowledge, but not the hands-on. I'm not trying to knock any of the brew schools. I have a lot of respect for them and whatnot, but I've seen people come out of there and looking to get a job and they don't know what they're doing. There's no substitute for being hands-on, and I think that that even at a smaller scale, those fundamentals will scale up.
Yeah, you didn't want to knock higher education, but Jeremy, I'm a college dropout. I'll do it. Don't do it, guys. Don't finish school, kids, and start smoking because it's cool. No, sorry, no kids listen to this. Jeremy, I don't know if your publicist told you we don't have any audience. We just do this for fun. And I appreciate your time. I'm really just trying to get your recipe for breakfast stout.
That was the whole motive.
Yeah, I know.
I was laughing a minute ago, Josh, because you were kind of saying I'm not real interested in it. Josh doesn't ever want to actually have to work that hard. That's the reason that he would never be a head brewer.
Is there
anywhere.
a job at a brewery where you have like the idea guy? Who's the idea guy?
That's me.
See, Todd?
It took a long time to get here, though.
Damn it.
I don't think they give those jobs out anymore. I got in at the right time. When you can be this, unqualified hack of a brewer and get this position.
I know. I keep updating my LinkedIn resume, but no one's calling. Man, so you're talking about exclusive at tap rooms. That is one of my favorite things about any given tap room I go to, is a lot of the times part of the experience is not just getting your favorite beer from that brewery on tap, because I'll argue with anybody. I'll punch them in the mouth if they don't agree. Draft beer is the best beer. It's my favorite way to receive beer from the keg, and especially on a properly calibrated system like most brewery tap rooms are. They're serving it the way that the beer should be served. Do you find, are there still taproom exclusives to you guys that aren't distributed anywhere, and is a reason for people in the area to come by, monthly or quarterly or whenever they get released?
Absolutely. We're always making stuff. We have a collection of favorites that people like to see come, at least once a year, that we'll bring back. And of course, all new ideas. In our tap room, IPAs are pretty popular, as I'm sure they are throughout most of the country. So you can always, probably every third brew we make is an IPA, just because that's what people want, and they're going to drink it, and it's a fun thing to do. We all love the hops, and there's a lot of cool new hop varieties coming out that we're obligated to play around with and see if you can find a little magic with a certain hop or a combination of hops. So, those are no brainers. Like I said, those are going to sell no matter what. It was just trying to push the envelope with some other stuff. We get oftentimes, we have a pretty robust barrel age program. But aside from like the year round high volume things, I'm always putting random things into different barrels, and sometimes you have a couple of them. And you put it in a little pilot tank, and I do have some little 3-4 barrel tanks that are good for throwing a couple bourbon barrels in or whatever barrels and keg those up and put those on tap. That's always fun for our local clientele to be able to try something like that. We'll save them for a special occasion or not, just put them on whenever. But yeah, it's a pretty good idea to come down here at least every couple weeks and see what we got cooking.
I know this is probably a dumb question because the tap room is basically your keezer or kegerator. Do you have draft beer at home, or do you think I don't need it at home because you're probably always up at the brewery anyway? And if you do have it at home, what do you have on tap?
Yeah, that's great. I just got my first kegerator
Nice.
a couple months ago. I bought it from my brother-in-law as my sister was taking over a room to be her home office, and she's like, "That thing out of here." So I got a really good deal on it. It's a pretty nice little kegerator. It's just a one tower, but we had just finished making our harvest ale, which is our wet hopped, just amazing. It's probably my favorite beer that we make. So I took a half barrel of that home, thinking to myself, gosh, I'm going to have some help drinking this thing. I'm going to have my friends come over and fill growlers. And man, I had that thing polished off in a few weeks.
That happens to us a lot. We keep a lot of beer at home on tap, and I'm constantly blaming my friends for drinking all of it because there's no way I could have drank that much beer.
Well, I mean, I was hosting band practice, so I did have 6 musicians in there helping themselves for a couple times, so that definitely helps. When that thing ran out, though, I wasn't really sure what to do. I mean, I drink a lot of all day and things like that, but that just seems kind of anticlimactic after the harvest ale. So I'll be honest, this was maybe 3 weeks ago, and I called around the local stores and I found a half barrel of Sierra Nevada Celebration Ale. So that's what I have on tap right now. Another one of my all-time favorites, and I thought it was a good way to follow up this harvest ale and take me through the holiday season.
We have on this week's episode, I say this week, this one's publishing in a week from now, but the day we're recording this, we're publishing one with our friend Lorena Evans. She's very established in the homebrewing community, like throughout the forums and stuff, and she developed a Sierra Nevada Celebration clone recipe, and it's one of our favorites, and she had never brewed it, so we sent it to her, and I believe she just kegged it, right, Todd? Is what we didn't actually talk about it on the
I forgot to ask her when she was here. We actually made a mead, so we were busy with that.
Oh, that's right. But that recipe is it's one of my favorite beers too, though. Celebration for this time of year.
Yeah.
Oh, beer. I just like boozy, hoppy beers this time of year. I'm not really much on hops any other time of the year, but this time Celebration's nice to pop open and pour and enjoy until you wake up. I mean, it's whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I normally buy several 12-packs cases throughout the season anyway. So I said, let's just go right to the half barrel.
Do you find yourself as the brewmaster, as that in charge? Do you find yourself? I mean, you're probably not. You're constricted to brewing what's being sold, right? Like in that position, you don't maybe have the luxury of, hey, let's brew more of this because it's what my favorite is. But do you ever do, hey, let's brew more of this because it's my favorite? Like, what are your favorite styles to brew at any scale, and what are your favorite styles to drink?
Well, I mean, our slogan for a while was brewed for us, and I think that came from we brew the beer we want to drink, or something like that. We are actually currently going through a shift where we're gonna lose that slogan because it's just not really appropriate anymore. It's it was a thing for a long time, and it was a thing when I started, like what I was talking about, and we're making beers that not everybody else is making, but we're making it because that's what we like to drink. And there was a group of people that shared those common interests in flavors and what they wanted out of their beers. So, but fast forward to 2021, and gosh, I'm making things like seltzers and I'm making hazy beers, and none of those things are my favorite things to drink. But we're running a business. Like I said, we're 500,000+ barrels and 500+ employees, and there's just a lot. There's a lot counting on it. So it's still up to me to kind of drive the ship, but our marketing team has more influence than ever on the things that we should probably be making. They're doing consumer testing and trying to really figure out what's worth our while to pursue at this point. So it's on me to still make whatever it is taste good, and I'll even say great, and I'll say that that's I still feel like that's my reputation at stake, and it's my job to, whatever it is, whether I want to drink it or not, to own that and make sure that it's up to founder standards.
Yeah.
So how much seltzer do I drink? More than I used to, but but because I had to get into it and I had to get passionate about it, and I am happy with where we landed with that product. If it was up to me, would I make it? No, I would have skipped it. Well, but I like sessionable, hop forward, well balanced beers. Anything from a nice pale ale, American pale ale, to a pilsner, to those are the things that I find myself drinking a lot now, and I drink those kind of beers because I do drink a lot, and it's kind of part of my life. So it needs to be low alcohol for me to maintain any sort of productivity amongst my day, and I like hop forward things, but I really love the balance. I pride myself in that. The things that I make are going to have that balance, whether you're featuring some certain aspect or being even extreme about it. Still, there's that balance underlying that has to be there, or else you're just brewing in something gimmicky, trying to get attention by making, I remember back when I started, there was like the IBUs race, and everyone was like, oh my, I just made an IPA that's 300 IBUs. Wow. And you're like, no, you didn't. And even if you did, that's gross. That sounds terrible. And I kind of feel like more a modern analogy is like with dry hop rates, right? Oh, I dry hop my beer with 10 pounds per barrel. Well, that's not going to... to me, that is not pleasurable drinking right there. Sure, it's extreme and it probably has, wild aroma. But ultimately, what I like to do is find well-balanced beers that you want to have another one when you're done with that first one.
I agree. You're in good company when you talk about balanced beers.
Yes.
That's great. I was going to ask, or I was going to make a comment, because a lot of home brewers, when they get bit by the bug, if you go on the subreddit or on Homebrew Talk or whatever, it is a very common topic where people are like, I'm going to do it, guys. I mean, usually they probably had a few when they get on their computer. I'm going to do it, guys. I'm going pro. What do I do? But I think one thing people don't realize is to be successful, you might have to sacrifice what you want to brew for what the people can come into your place, because it doesn't pay the bills if I just have my dream at one point was I'm only going to brew alt beer and Kolsch, and that's all we're going to serve. And everyone's going to love it. And maybe we'll have taco stands and stuff. This would be great. Not everyone's going to come to Josh's taco stand.
I would come there. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, Kolsch and alt beer. I'm there.
But I think a lot of home brewers romanticize that pro process where it's like, well, you could do that, but if you don't have a lot of backing or capital or personal wealth, it's going to be hard, right? Not just the taco stand and Kolsch and alt, but in general.
Josh, you'd be making a pickle beer within a month.
I would. I'm in Austin. Austin. I would. It would be. Oh yeah. Well, and I'm half Mexican too, so I'd be like, oh, it's a chorizo pickle beer. You're gonna love it, guys. You're gonna love it. Yeah, that sounds good. Oh, and Jeremy just disconnected at that. No, he's back. I do. So speaking of people who get bit by the bug, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask, because anytime we have a pro brewer on, I have to ask it. It's always in my inbox. People want to know, do you have any advice for a home brewer of any kind of level, beginner to expert, that is interested in pro brewing? Besides the obvious, don't do it. What is any advice that you have, maybe for them to either get into commercial or to start up their own kind of thing?
Is that a common answer from the people who ask? Just don't do it.
Well, the common answer is when people say they want to open up their own, right? So I guess it was a two kind of question, because the advice is for people who want to get into commercial brewing, but there are people who ask, Josh, what do you think? Should I start my own brewery? And most pro brewers say, By yourself with your own money? Ooh, but what is your advice, Jeremy?
Yeah, I mean, I think about that a lot. If I ever decided to leave Founders, geez, would I start my own thing? But I don't think I would. That's the amount of just capital to come up with, and then it's so long before you're ever gonna I don't know, actually make any money. You got to be a special kind of crazy to do that. But if you're looking to get into the industry, gosh, I'll say from my own experience, what getting that foot in the door. Maybe I know everybody wants to be the brewer, but man, there's other jobs at the brewery that are pretty important and maybe don't have the glamour associated with them, but there's a lot to be learned, and there's the opportunity. I think that we hire from within here at Founders quite a bit, and by that I mean just moving people up through the ranks. You start as a brewer's assistant, or maybe on the packaging line, and you show that you have a passion, you have great work ethic, and you got some potential. We're going to want to take those people and promote from within, because I can teach anybody how to brew on our systems if you have if you have good work ethic and that capacity. I would rather do that than, and again, not to knock on the schools, but then somebody fresh out of school with a degree and I'm a brewer, or even somebody that's been bouncing around a bunch of different breweries. Those people worry me a little bit too. I'm glad you have experience, but you also have probably a lot of bad habits and 10 other ways of doing things. And I like a clean slate, somebody that I can just teach the way that I want it done. Just get that foot in the door, get out there. And even if it's just washing kegs, be the best keg washer you can be. And I bet there's going to be opportunity for.
See, there's hope for me yet. Right. I'm a damn good keg washer. Yeah.
I didn't have it on the Brady Bunch view whenever he said it. When you said work ethic, Todd gave me a dirty look. And I was going to say, Jeremy, you lost me at work ethic, man. Golly. I'm a clean slate because I'm an idiot. But no, I'm kidding. I don't want to set that precedent. Hey, I want to talk before we let you go. And again, we really appreciate your time. This has been so much fun. I know you're a musician, guitarist, right? And right. What kind of music are you playing? What are you playing? I'll show you real quick my office. Let me I'm an amateur musician, and yes, that's You've Got Mail on my TV. I always have that in the background. It's an American classic. But I just picked up one of those deluxe Strats during the pandemic when it first started, because they sold it to me for half price. Thank you, Sweetwater.com. But
I love Sweetwater.
I love Sweetwater, but that 2002 Firebird on my wall has been my baby for forever. What are you playing, and how long have you been playing? Because I love how a lot of brewers are also musicians, and they're usually metalheads. I don't want to typecast you. They're usually metalheads, but what are you playing on, and what are you jamming?
I am not exactly a metalhead. My dad was a musician, and my mom too. So I was always brought up with instruments around the house, guitars and drums and pianos, and never really, much like my brewing career, I didn't have any formal training with instruments either. But it just kind of came naturally, and playing guitar, and probably I got serious about it in middle school to high school. I don't know. I'm a rock and roll guy. The classic rock is probably what I associate with most, but I do like a lot of other different styles, and I have a lot of fun playing other instruments too. I also have a drum kit and keyboards and all kinds of stuff at my own house too, hoping that my kids will eventually start to get some interest in that, which they haven't really yet, but hey, they're little still, so there's time. I'm a Les Paul guy. That's the guitar I've settled in on, and though my back complains about it every time I pick it up, it's the sound that I have to have, and it's just what's comfortable in my hands.
The tone is so nice. Well, when I was shopping with my pop, how old was I in 2001? I was like 15-ish, I think. Not to date you guys all as being.
Wow.
Yeah. Todd, what were you in 2001? Like 55? Well, I forget how old you were. Anyway, I was looking at Les Pauls, and I was looking at SGs, and the sales guy was like, well, come look at this Firebird. And I think it's because the Firebird at the time was considerably more expensive than the SG that I had settled on from the Les Paul, because my dad talked me away from the Les Paul because of its price tag. And but no, I love Gibson tone is great. I picked up the Fender mainly because the price, but I've never actually had that single pickup sound. And so for some like indie sounds or whatever, I didn't need the warmth of like the humbucker that the Gibson Firebird had. But anyway, James has experience. Well, it's been a while since you've made a guitar, hasn't it, James?
Yeah, I'm working on one right now, but I've got to get the pickups. I haven't decided. I may do dual tones. Like the one I built for Todd, I put P90s and humbuckers. I mixed them.
Yeah.
And it has kind of the best of both worlds.
Yeah, we appreciate music. One of my favorite things, Jeremy, is about having a beer and sitting around in music. It all goes together very well. You know what I mean? I like my hobbies when they mesh. It makes it fun. But anyways, to wrap it up, we like to give people the opportunity to drop like their Instagram, Twitter. Obviously, everyone knows Founders. Do you have personal accounts you keep up, or are you like, no, I like anonymity, I'm private, just go to Founders stuff?
Yeah, Founders has all kinds of stuff. I know we do most of the channels. I don't know those.
Your band, man. Your band.
Right word there? I don't know what it is. I do. I don't know. I have some bands. I have some original bands. I play in some other cover bands, but most of them are like, it's a hobby. It's you get a couple gigs a year. You just do it for fun. That's kind of where I'm at with those things too. So, no, I don't have anything to plug.
I like it. I like it. Go ahead, Todd.
I did want to say one thing. We've got to make it a point, guys, to go. I don't think either one of you been to the tasting room.
No, sir.
Never.
We've got to go. So we next time we have any excuse to go in that area, we definitely need to go to the tasting room. It's really quite an experience. It's I've been to them all over the world, and I think it's one of the best in the world. It's really incredible place to visit.
Yeah, I'm ready. Super proud of that room. It's big. It's pre-pandemic. It was a lot more fun. We had music several times a night. We went crawling out of a really weird couple of years right now, but things are getting a little bit back to normal, and we'd love to see you guys. I don't know if you have much passion for snow. Maybe you want to wait until
we do. We want to wait.
Turns a little bit. But.
No, we want to wait. Yeah, man. It was like 58 this morning, and I was in winter wear, like a tundra style coat. I'm like 99% body hair. You'd think I'd handle it better, but I really don't. That's too much information for you. But
we'll come see you next summer.
Yeah, we will. We'll make it a point. Like Todd said, the excuse, Todd, is to go to the tasting room. That is the excuse to go to Michigan.
Well, the last time I went, it was Chicago, Milwaukee. I think Milwaukee, and then took the ferry over. Oh, and that was a nice trip.
Good trip.
Yeah, he knows I haven't been to your tasting room, Jeremy, because he sent me photos incessantly throughout the night. Look what else I'm having. Yeah. In our group thread, he was like, "Oh, but I got you a shirt. That's not going to fit you anyway." Anyway, Jeremy, again, dude, thank you so much for your time. I greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, we appreciate it.
I'd love to, when we make it up there, we'd love to maybe do a recap episode if possible from the brew room or from the tasting room.
Yeah, you got my email. Hit me up. Let's hang out.
For sure.
All right.
Appreciate you, man. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
And that will do it for this episode of the Homebrew Happy Hour. If you have a question you would like us to discuss on a future episode, go to homebrewhappyhour.com and click on that submit a question link at the top of the page. Or remember, you can call or text them in by using 325-305-6107. Thank you to our show sponsor, Imperial Yeast. You'll get a free pack of Imperial Yeast with your monthly recipe kits when you join our Trump Club. So go to patreon.com/Homebrew Happy Hour to learn more. On behalf of Todd Burns, James Carlson, and the Pearl Media Network, I'm Joshua Stubing. Thank you for listening.